I have cancer. But I'm not afraid, because you taught me that laughter survives pain. Please tell my daughter I loved her. And please remind her that smiling doesn't mean forgetting. It means surviving. Johnny lowered the letter. The studio was silent. A moment that never aired again. Johnny knelt and took Emily's hands. Your father was one of the bravest men I've ever known. He reached into his jacket and pulled out his pocket square. I want you to have this. The audience stood, crying, applauding. Johnny ended the show differently that night. He said, "The people we love never truly leave us. Sometimes, they just send messages through others." What happened next? Johnny invited Emily and her mother backstage. He gave Emily a signed photo, and he made a promise. Every year on your birthday, I'll tell a joke for your father. He kept that promise until retirement. Today, Emily Warren is now an adult. She became a grief counselor, helping children who've lost parents. In her office hangs Johnny's pocket square, her father's letter, and that old wristwatch, now fitting perfectly. Johnny Carson passed away in 2005. Emily later received a letter from his widow. Johnny never forgot your father. He said that letter reminded him why he did this job. Final message. Laughter doesn't erase pain. It helps us live with it. And sometimes, a single letter from a single child can stop an entire nation and remind us why kindness matters. If this story moved you, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs hope today. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from tonight? Johnny Carson's fingers wouldn't stop trembling. It was the evening of November 14th, 1985, inside NBC's Burbank studio. The Tonight Show was live. Over 300 people filled the audience seats, while millions more watched from their homes across America. For more than 2 decades, Johnny Carson had been the calm center of late-night television. He never froze. He never lost control. He never let silence win. But on this night, he couldn't speak. His face had drained of color. The cue cards in his hands shook violently. Tears pooled in his eyes. The band stopped playing. Ed McMahon slowly rose from his chair, unsure what to do. In Johnny's earpiece, the director's voice cracked with panic. "Johnny, you're live." But Johnny wasn't listening. His eyes were locked on a small girl standing near the stage. She couldn't have been older than 7. She wore a blue dress that clearly didn't fit her. On her tiny wrist hung a man's wristwatch, so loose it nearly slid off. In her hands, she clutched a folded piece of paper as if it were the most important thing she owned. She had just whispered something to him, and whatever those words were, they shattered him. The audience sat motionless. 30 seconds passed. Then 40. Dead air. Point 1. The longest silence in Tonight Show history. What could a 7-year-old child possibly say that reduced the most powerful man in late-night television to tears? The answer would change how America remembered Johnny Carson forever. A little girl named Emily. Her name was Emily Warren. She was 7 years old, with deep brown eyes that carried a sadness far too heavy for someone so young. 8 weeks earlier, Emily's world had collapsed. Her father, Michael Warren, was only 34 years old. He worked as a school janitor in Pasadena, California. He wasn't famous. He wasn't wealthy. But to Emily, he was everything. Michael had one ritual that never changed. Every single night, no matter how exhausted he was, he sat in his old recliner with Emily on his lap and watched The Tonight Show. Johnny Carson's monologue wasn't just entertainment to him. It was escape. When life felt overwhelming, Johnny made it lighter. Emily once asked him, "Daddy, why do you love him so much?" Michael smiled and said, "Because when he's on TV, the world doesn't feel so heavy." The tickets. Months before the tragedy, Michael entered a radio contest. He called again and again, over 200 times in one weekend. And he won 2 front-row tickets to a live taping of The Tonight Show. Michael screamed so loudly the neighbors rushed over. He lifted Emily into the air and spun her around the kitchen. "We're going to see Johnny, baby." Front row. Emily had never seen her father so happy. Then, on September 15th, everything ended. A drunk driver ran a red light. Michael was killed instantly. Emily was supposed to be in the car, but a last-minute cold kept her home. The tickets remained untouched in Michael's nightstand. 2 front-row seats. Non-refundable. Non-transferable. One still had Michael's name printed on it. Emily's mother, Karen, couldn't bring herself to throw them away. Point 2. Emily made the decision. "If we don't go," she said softly, Daddy's dream disappears. So they went. The letter. The night before the taping, Karen found Emily sitting on her bed, carefully writing on a piece of paper. "What are you writing, sweetheart?" Emily folded it and slipped it into her pocket. "It's for Johnny." Karen assumed it was a drawing. She didn't ask more. She would regret that forever. Live television stops. The show began perfectly. Johnny was sharp, funny, confident. The audience laughed loudly. But Johnny noticed her. The little girl in the front row. She didn't laugh. She didn't clap. She just watched him, intensely. When the monologue ended, the room erupted in applause. And then Emily stood up. Security moved forward, but Johnny raised his hand. "Let her come." Johnny knelt down at the edge of the stage. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Emily," she said. "My daddy loved you." Johnny smiled gently. "Is your daddy here tonight?" Emily shook her head. "He died." The room gasped. She handed Johnny the folded paper. "He wrote you a letter. He wanted you to read it if he ever met you." Johnny unfolded it. And everything changed. The letter that broke him. At first, Johnny read silently. Then his jaw tightened. His hands began to shake. Tears spilled down his face. Ed McMahon stood up again. "Johnny." But Johnny couldn't speak. He finally looked at the audience and read aloud. "Mr. Carson, you don't know me, but you saved me when I was 12. When my father died, your show made me laugh for the first time in months. That laugh saved my life." Johnny wiped his eyes. The letter continued. "I've watched you every night for 30 years. Now I'm dying. Point 3.